Dear students, today we begin with the chapter 2 in Python programming. Here in this second chapter, session number 9, creating Python program. Under this session, input, out, input and output statements, control statements and branching statements we discussed. Okay, so now here input and output statement. Normally in any programming languages, first we need IO statements, because whatever that result processing, first we have to input the data into that program. That is the first step. Then after processing, we get the output results on the display devices, either on the monitor or on the laptop screen or a projector screen, like that. So now here in this Python, it contains a built-in input and output statements. For reading that values, input is the statement, and get the output result on the screen, print is the statement. Are widely used for standard input and output operations. So observe here input statement to allow to take the input from the user. Okay, syntax for input you see on that slide. Input, within that bracket, within this parenthesis, a prompt. Here that prompt is nothing but a string to display on the screen, so it is an optional. For example, num is equal to input, enter a number. Print num. Suppose we enter that value is 10, so as it is that prints on the screen. Okay, so next slide is, it is the continuation from the previous one, input and output statements. Here entered value 10 is a string. To convert this into a number, by default in Java, in Python, whatever the value is given, automatically that compilers recognizes given data is in the form of string. So if you want to convert from one data type to another data type, so here num, int num, float num, that are the conversion specifiers. Then we move on to the output statement. That output statement is used in Python is a print statement. So print function to output data outside devices. Here in this syntax, print string or literal or variables. That's all. Here you see that example, print the sentence is out to the screen. Then output, this sentence is output to the screen as it is prints on the screen. Example 2, we take a is equal to 5. Print the value of a is a. So output is the value of a is 5, because a is equal to 5 we are initialized. So that value printed on the screen. Here in input and output statement, the actual syntax of the print function is print object separators, comma, end slash n file system.stdout flash file. So it's the actual syntax of the print statement, but we are simply assigning a string inside the printer as it is that prints on the screen. Here the SCP, that separator, is used between the values. In defaults into a space character. After all values are printed, end is printed. It defaults into a new line. objects is the values to be printed. Okay, that file is the object where the value are printed and its default value a std system.std out on the screen. So here in this example, print 1234, output 1234, print 1234, separator is a star, so that time 1 into 2 into 3 into 4. Instead of comma, here using that separator is a multiplication sign. Print 1234, separator hash and end with dollar sign. Output 1 hash 2 hash 3 hash 4 hash and operator. Here output formatting. Sometimes we would like to format our output to make it look attractive. This can be done by using the str.format method. So this method is visible to any string object. Suppose 3 greater than sign is already. Okay, x. Okay, x is equal to 5, y is equal to 10. Here observe in the print statement the value of x is simply flower bracket and y is simply flower bracket, format x comma y. The value of x is 5 and y is 10. So that prints the result on the screen. Here the curly braces are used as placeholders. We can specify the order in which it is printed by using numbers, tuple index. Okay, print high low within that flower bracket 0 and 1, format bread butter, output I love bread and butter. So print I love 1 and 0, format bread and butter. Yes, I love butter and bread. Okay, like that we printed the values on the screen in Python. Then we can even use that keyword argument to format the string. You observe that print hello, name greeting, format greeting, good morning, name is equal to John, hello John, good morning. Okay, we can even format string like the old sprintf style used in a C programming. We can use the percent operator to accomplish this. So here x is equal to 12.34. Okay, print the value of x is percentage 0.32f, percentage 0.3.4f. You see in this example. Okay, that value of x is 12.347. Okay, here that x value is 12.35 because 0.2f, here is a 0.4f after the decimal point values. Here is control statements. In almost all programming languages contains control statements, a statement that controls flow of program, a logical design that controls order in which set of statements execute. Programs have 4 basic control statements: sequential, selection, repetition, and conditional branching. So here sequence means without using that control statements or repetition statement, we have to write the program in programming languages normally that are line by line execution. That is nothing but a sequential. Line by line execution or step by step execution is nothing but a sequential execution. There is no any control statements. There that control statement does not take any deviation I to the left or right, but that execution always a top to bottom, that is nothing but sequential. Here is a selection statements. Depends on the conditions, it select that statements. Suppose if statement, if else statement. So then in Python programming there is no, what is it, a switch case statement. Okay. So then selection means depends on that condition, it select that condition to check whether the condition is true or false. If the condition is true, it takes the value for execution. So it is a selection means after selecting, if that condition satisfies, then only it start for executions. Here is a repetition means looping statements. A same statement or a set of statements repeats again and again until some condition satisfies. So it is a repetitive statements. Here there is no do while statement, only for and while repetition statements are available in Python programming. Okay, right? Repetition is nothing but execute a single statement or a set of statements again and again. So it is an repetitive statements. Okay, unconditional branching statements. Here is this unconditional branching statements. Okay, unconditional means break statement, continuous statement, that statements comes in the programming languages. Okay, right? Next, here selection or control statement, then gives a program the ability to choose which instruction to execute based on condition. Here is a types one-way selection, if statement, two-way selection, if else statement, and nested if statement, nested if else statement, Y selection, else if statement. Okay. Here in this first one is an if statement. In flowchart, diamonds represent the true or false condition that must be tested. Okay, action can be conditionally executed, performed only one condition is true. Single alternative decision structure provides only one alternative path of execution. In condition is not true, exit the structure. That Python syntax, if condition colon, here that indentations statement, then statement. Okay, first line knows the if else, second includes the keyword if allowed by condition. Okay, the condition can be true or false. While when the if statement executes, the condition is tested and it is true, the block statements are executed. Otherwise, a block statements can be statements or block statements are skipped. Okay. If else statement, it is a two-way branching statement and dual alternative decision structure. Two possible paths of execution. One is taken if the condition is true and other if the condition is false. Here that syntax, if condition, then statements, else other statements. If clause and else clause must be aligned. Statement must be consistently intended. Here in this control statement, nested if else statement. Within that one if statement to construct another if statement, that is nothing but nested if else statement. Special version of a decision structure makes the logic of nested decision structure simpler to type. Right, this is nested if. Here in this condition 1 statements, condition 2 statements, condition 3 statements. That syntax is like that. Alignment is used with if, else, if statement. If, else, if and else cause are all aligned. Conditionally executed blocks are consistently intended. If, else statements is never required logic, but logic easier to follow, can be accomplished by nested if else. Code can become complex and indentation can cause problematic long lines. Okay. Here in that control statements, repetition control statement, a form of repetition, either a counter controller or logical controlled or both. Type of for and while are the repetitive statements. For control statement, Python's list comprehensions provide a natural idioms that usually require a for loop in other programming languages. As a result, Python code uses many fewer loops. Nevertheless, it is important to learn about for loops. Take care, the keywords for and in are also used in the syntax of list comprehensions, but this is totally different constructions. Okay. File, item, collection, statements. Okay. Then if collection is a list or a tuple, then the loop steps through each element of the sequence. Okay. If collection is starting, then the loop steps through each character in the string. Small character in hello world, print some character. For loop in the second way means for item in collection, then statements. Item can be more than a single variable name. Collection elements are in themselves sequence, then item can be matched the structure of the elements. This multiple assignments can take it easier to access the individual parts of each element. So for example, for x comma y in a1, p2, a3, p4, print x. For loops and range functions. Here, since a variable often range over some sequence of numbers, the range function returns a value of numbers from 0 up to but not including the number we pass to it. Range 5 returns 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would stay for x in range 5, print x. There are more complex forms of range that provide richer functionality. Here that branching statements. Branching is a fundamental part of programming. It means taking an action based on the decision. A decision is dependent on a condition. If observe here, if agree, take. If thirsty, take a drink. Okay, it's an example for branching statement. Python has an unconditional branching statements, and they are break statement and continuous statement. Whenever you're going to send a controls to the current block, so that time you have to use the break statement. Suppose we are in the program execution, if you want to send that functions to the top of the program, so that time we have to use continuous statement. Okay, here in this picture you observe that how exactly that working of break statement and continue statement. Here in this diagram, it represents a break statement. Condition true, statement 1 break. Otherwise, break causes jump in loop. Okay. Here in this example, you observe that definition break example colon y is equal to 4 for I in range 0 comma y plus 1 colon if I is equal to I. Thank you. Break else print I. End of program. Here in this that output result it prints 0 1 2 3 4. Thank you and end of program. Okay. Continue statement. When that inside that block that execution takes place, right? So suppose if you want to set that control to the beginning of the program at the top, so that time we have to use this what is that continue statement. Observe that continue statement flowchart representation loop condition true statement 1 then continue then statement n so at that condition loop then false, right? Here in this continue causes jumping. For example, for that branching statement definition contained by example for continuous statement in loop I in range 0.5 equals okay. Okay, here is another condition unconditional statement a pause here for I in range 0 to 10 pause equal called a print goodbye by using a pause statement. Here is an example. Okay, here is an example for continuous statement and pause statement, right? So now we come to the conclusion. Python programming statements that every program it contains input and output statements, control statements and branching statements. At least any program it takes either input statements or control statements or branching statements. Okay, these are the basic concept for any programming languages. These control statements, branching statements, input output statements are there in every programming languages. Like that here also that program contains these statements. Thank you, students. This is the concept of ninth session. It comes in the chapter 2. Okay, so whenever you move on to the new sessions, so every day you go through that back what are the sessions covered. So again you repeat that sessions. That sessions are helpful for the next sessions. Okay, thank you all.